Right. Hello, everyone. As stated, I will be presenting our paper titled The Impact of Implicit Information on Human Agent Negotiation, then in collaboration with my advisor, Jonathan Gratch. And so my talk will flow as follows. I will begin by discussing the importance of information exchange and finding win-win solutions. In doing so, I will discuss the various channels that we can utilize to gather information through information exchange, as well as some of the limitation of current agents. In addressing those limitations, there's essentially three research questions we're going to be exploring. And the general idea behind these questions is, what is the impact of implicit information, both in helping us understand our opponent as well as finding a joint value in negotiation. And in addressing these research questions, I'll detail experiments that we conducted, as well as the results from that, and then finish off with conclusions as well as next steps. So one of the things that we know is that negotiations are really hard, and it's even harder to find win-win solutions. Oftentimes we find ourselves in this predicament where we are unable to
I
find
don't think we're going to come to an
a solution
agreement.
with an opponent.
It's pretty obvious that we both want the chairs.
It's pretty obvious, isn't it? But
Yeah.
like I said, I'll give you one.
Well,
How about that?
that doesn't seem fair, though.
It doesn't. Well,
Not really.
I guess we can't come to no agreement then, can we?
And oftentimes that's how our negotiation ends, without an agreement reached. And there's a variety of reasons why we don't reach agreement. But one of the key reason is oftentimes we begin a negotiation with a fixed power bias where we assume our opponent wants the same thing that we do. But what we find is that that's often not the case. And the reality is that both negotiators begin a negotiation without a sense of what the other person wants. And it is only through their communication that we begin to get a sense of their preferences. So for example, they can make explicit statements such as, "I like chairs more than plates." They can also make implicit, they can also share information implicitly. For example, opponent may say, "I want 3 chairs and no plates," which signals that they like the chairs more than plates. And this notion of information exchange is a very hard problem, because not only do you have to pay attention to the explicit statements an opponent makes, but you also have to pay attention to implicit communication as well. And not only do you have to watch these two channels, but also you have to be able to combine that information in a way that allows you to create or make creative offers. And what we find is that many of the state-of-the-art agents that negotiate with humans don't do this. And so for this research, we're going to focus on one such agent, which is Iago. Iago is a web-based agent that allows humans to engage in a negotiation with a virtual agent. And so through Iago, we can make offers as well as share explicit information about our preferences. And so what Iago does is, in building his model of an opponent, Iago exclusively focuses on the explicit information shared through preference statement. And then when deciding how to make offers, oftentimes Iago isn't intentionally communicative about the way in which it makes offers. So it doesn't make offers that clearly communicate what it wants. And so in exploring the impact of incorporating these new channels in Iago, 3 research questions arise. The first question is, if we were to incorporate this implicit information that comes through the pattern or offer, can Iago get better at modeling what an opponent wants. What we expect from a rational perspective is that, yes, the more information the agent gets, the better they should be able to do. However, we also realize that humans are often not very coherent in the information they provide. The other question we have is, can humans form a better model of Iago? So if the agent begins to reveal more information through its pattern or offer, would the agent be able to form a better model of what the agent wants? And we expect that a rational agent should do better, or should form a better model of an opponent. But prior research suggests that novices are often confused by additional information through the implicit channel. And lastly, the other thing we want to see is, does this additional information help to increase value creation? So the idea of value creation is that by both negotiators sharing information and gaining a better sense of what each other want, then they can better find win-win solution. And so in this case, we're saying, if you add this additional information that comes from the pattern offer, will we be able to get better joint value? And so to explore this, we conducted an experiment in which we had participants engage in a multi-issue bargaining task with Iago. There was a total of 473 participants who were recruited through Amazonic Mechanical Turk. All participants were based in the US, and we incentivized performance by entering tickets into a lottery proportional to how good they did. So the better you did, the more tickets you receive, and the higher your chance was to do better in the negotiation, or do better in the lottery. And participants in this study negotiated with one of 4 agents, and I'll describe how these agents varied. So agents in this study varied across 2 dimensions, the way in which they communicated their preference, as well as their opponent modeling abilities. And so I'll talk about how we alter the different behaviors. So the first thing I want to discuss is the communication. So agents vary in the way in which they communicated. So we had both the unsophisticated method of communicating and sophisticated method of communicating. So in this case, let's assume that the agent has this preference where it likes salary more than bonuses, bonuses more than stocks, and stocks more than vacation. And so what you see about both offers is, both offers are essentially claiming the same amount of points for the agent, but they very much so communicate different information through the claim. So for example, in the unsophisticated offer, we see that the agent is essentially claiming the same level for each item, whereas in a sophisticated agent offer, we see that, in a sophisticated communication, we see that the agent is claiming more of the items that they want. So the big difference between these two is that the sophisticated communication tells us more about what the agent wants. And so the unsophisticated case is what is the modeling technique that Iago uses by default. Is the communication technique that Iago uses by default. And so the next way we vary these agents was by their ability to their opponent model. And so agents that use an unsophisticated opponent model only paid attention to the human's statements, so the explicit preferences that they shared, whereas the sophisticated opponent model used both the human's pattern of offers as well as their statement. To reiterate, by default, Iago does model opponents similar to the unsophisticated modeling technique. And so I hope I've convinced you of how these agents work. Now let's see the results. And so the first thing we're going to look at is the agent opponent modeling accuracy. So as I stated earlier, what we expect from a rational agent is that the more information it is provided, the more accurate it should be able to model an opponent. And so what we see here is that indeed the addition of the implicit information does help Iago more accurately model an opponent, but this is not impacted by how much or how Iago shares his information about itself. So whether it is sophisticatedly communicating its preferences or unsophisticated communicating its preference, we see that incorporating the implicit information channel does indeed help Iago more accurately model an opponent. And when we look at the human, now let's look at the human's ability to model the agent. What we see is that in this case, the agent, I'm sorry, the human isn't as, additional information does not help the human get better at modeling the agent. And what we see is that actually by providing implicit information is actually hurting the human. And so this is consistent with prior research that suggests that this additional channel information may be confusing the human, thus leading to worse accuracy. So let's look at value creation. So what we see is that in modeling, or this additional channel of information does help joint value, but it only helps when the agent communicates using unsophisticated channels. So using both channel information does help both participant gain more value, but it is only the case when the agent only communicates its preferences to the pattern state through the pattern statements. And so in conclusion, what we see is that one, agent is more accurate in understanding what the human wants when it combines both channels of information. We see that providing the implicit channel of information does hurt the user perspective taking, and this is due to the fact that oftentimes novices get confused at when additional information is provided. And lastly, we do see that this additional information does improve joint value, but this is only the case when the agent communicates in an unsophisticated manner. And so there's a few limitations that that this study has, which could help to explain the results. One, this task was a single negotiation, which also had time pressure. So it could be that due to this cognitive load and the time pressure, participants struggle to fully understand what the opponent wanted. And then the other thing is that unlike other studies which essentially compare agents with zero theory of mind to those that have theory of mind, ours has some perspectives taken, and so we're just adding another channel. So it could be that this channel may or may not provide as much value in certain cases. So the next step, and what we want to do is one, given the potential limitation of it being a single negotiation, we want to see if we can replicate these results in a repeated study. And then also what this results show is that there is need to help humans learn how to negotiate better. And so there's a possibility for us to then build negotiation training systems to help humans become better negotiators. And so these are some of the next steps that we're going to explore. Thank you.